Hey everyone, hope everyone's doing good. Wanted to just follow up, make a part 2 to my video in regards to pre-installing your ledger boards and your trusses before you pour your ICF walls. So I finally got around to removing all my bracing, and the wall now, or the ledger board I should say, is now fully supported by the bolts. We tightened the bolts a long time ago, just had the bracing in there because it didn't have to be removed. Currently, I'm preparing to do the slab, so I've been bringing in sand. If you've seen any of my other videos, you might have seen the one where I was driving up sand. So I have access to sand. Me and my son have been putting it in here and by buckets, so that's been fun. But just wanted to talk about, pre-installing the ledgers and the joists first. So what I did was, if you can see on the bottom, there's like a 1/2 inch piece of plywood. Basically that serves as a cleat to hold a nice straight line across the whole bottom of the wall so that foam doesn't kick in. And then on top of it, I had a predetermined height made for these 2x4s, and I put them together kind of in this L shape. And what they do is, after I got up like row 3, I would start putting these in to hold the verticals up. I tried to get decent 2x4s, make sure they're all straight. At least when I put them in. After it rains a couple times on them, they may change a little bit, but for the most part, they were straight, especially when you put them in this L configuration shape. And then on top of that, there was like a top plate. And then on top of that top plate, then I set my ledger boards. So the verticals not only hold the wall straight, but then that's what actually provides the support for all this weight of the ledger board and then the trusses. So it worked out really good. As I was stacking up my blocks, I had to think before I would go to my next step, when I was putting rebar in, steps like that. But basically where those bolts are at, I had to cut the foam out behind it. So where those bolts go into the ledger boards, I cut the foam out. I actually used Flex Seal and coated the whole board behind it. You could use like felt paper or any number of different things to kind of coat your board. Or use like a pressure treated product, something like that, but it's good to protect it from the concrete. But basically the concrete goes all the way up to the back of those bolts, and then it goes all the way just past the center of the wall, and that's what connects it, to the wall. So I ended up putting like temporary 1/2 inch, you should probably use like 3/4 inch, but 1/2 inch plywood all around the perimeter of the top, and that's what I used for the scaffolding. And I think it worked really, really good. It kept my wall straight. I was nervous. Normally when you traditionally do this, you kind of tilt the walls in, and then at the very end when you're done pouring, somebody goes around with a good eye and a string, and they kind of tilt it back out and make them straight. And I really didn't want to do that. I know it doesn't sound that hard, but never doing it before, not having somebody here with me, I wanted to try to keep them as straight as possible. And to me, it seems like it worked. The walls didn't move. I had absolutely no problems on these sides of the walls, and it worked really good for the scaffolding. Like it provided really good scaffolding to walk around on. So the only thing I can think of that you have to kind of watch out for is it is a top heavy box. It is, for the most part it's a box, but it is top heavy, so you have a lot of weight up top. I guess if something pushed hard enough on the top and you didn't have enough bracing, definitely I put in plenty of bracing going from the trusses or from the verticals down into the ground. So you want to have plenty of those in there so it doesn't go side to side up on the top, because it is top heavy, like I said. But I think it works really good. When I did my research on it, I really couldn't find any videos on it. I actually found none where anybody had talked about it really. And just talking to people, as I was getting ready to pour, I actually did talk to one guy that had heard of somebody doing that, and they said it worked good too. So maybe it's something that's just kind of weird, or maybe there's another reason why people don't do it. But I know with the weight resting, like the ledger board, the weight resting on those beams, and then you kind of have to pry them out. So you kind of nick up and damage the foam a little bit more. So if that's a big deal, there's probably a better way I could have done it. I used a shovel, and that, like you can kind of see there on the bottom, I tried to use like a 2x6 or something and then use a shovel, and it kind of pressed like a corner into the foam. You can kind of see that on the bottom. So that's kind of another thing you got to think about. But other than that, it worked really good, and I definitely suggest it. If you have any questions, comment below. But if not, I hope everyone has a good day.